The first time I heard the strange buzzing sound in our neighborhood, I thought it was just someone's generator acting up. But then came the boxes, stacked high on Karen's porch, sealed with tape marked in a language she couldn't even read. And when she actually bragged, about selling exclusive imported electronics at half the price of any store, my stomach dropped. Something was off. Something dangerously off. You ever get that cold shiver when you realize the person holding power over your community, the one who bosses everyone around in homeowners association meetings, might actually be breaking the law right under your nose? Yeah. That was me, standing there with my hands in my pockets, watching Karen wave around a neon blue smartwatch that looked like it had been bought off a back alley table. Limited edition. She squealed in that voice of hers, nasal and sharp, while neighbors gathered around. I got them before anyone else in the States. I almost laughed out loud. Limited edition. Please. The cheap strap was already peeling, and when one of the watches beeped, it sounded like an alarm clock from the 90s. Karen, I finally said, trying to keep my tone level, are you sure these are safe to sell? Her head snapped toward me, eyes narrowing. Of course they are safe. Do you think I'm stupid? These are high quality, straight from overseas. People in this neighborhood should be grateful I'm bringing culture and innovation. I bit my tongue, but inside I was screaming. Culture. Innovation. This was counterfeit trash. Worse. Could hurt someone. Batteries that explode. Chargers that fry circuits. I'd seen the horror stories, and now she wanted to flood our community with them. I caught the wary glances from other neighbors, but no one spoke up. Why? Because Karen was the homeowners association president, the self-proclaimed queen of the block. You cross her and suddenly your lawn is too brown, your mailbox too old-fashioned, or your driveway non-compliant. She weaponized the homeowners association handbook like it was her personal Bible. But this time I wasn't letting it slide. The first crack in her story came when her shipment arrived at 3 a.m. I heard the rumbling truck, the squeal of brakes and the low voices. Foreign. Hurried. I peeked out my window and saw workers unloading dozens of unmarked boxes into her garage. Not UPS. Not FedEx. Just a beat-up freight truck with no company name. My heart pounded. What the hell is she doing? I whispered. The next day, she strutted out like nothing happened, handing out flyers for her so-called exclusive electronics fair. She actually planned to host it at the community center, using homeowners association funds to rent the space. Karen, this isn't a flea market, I said, cornering her as she stapled flyers to the bulletin board. She sniffed. It's called free enterprise. Maybe you should try it instead of whining all the time. God, I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a deep breath, closed my eyes for a second and thought, if I accused her without proof, she'd turn the whole homeowners association against me. I needed evidence. I needed her to dig her own grave. So I went to the fair. Picture this, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, tables lined with electronics that looked like they'd been dipped in cheap paint, laptops with keys that stuck, headphones that rattled, drones that wobbled in midair before crashing into folding chairs. And yet, neighbors were pulling out their wallets, hypnotized by the low prices. Top brand quality. Karen barked, her smile plastered on like a mask. Cutting-edge tech. Only for my community. Then it happened. A kid, little Jamie from across the street, tried on a pair of those knockoff earbuds. Within seconds, he yelped and ripped them out, his ear bright red. They shocked me. He cried, tears streaming. The room went silent. Parents stared. My blood boiled. But Karen, she just rolled her eyes. Oh, stop being dramatic. Children exaggerate. That was it. That was the line she crossed. I couldn't stand by anymore. I pulled out my phone, recording everything. The boxes, the labels, the flyers with her name on them, all of it. And then I made the call. Not to the homeowners association. Not to the police. Straight to you. Customs and Border Protection. The officer on the line listened carefully, then asked for details. I gave them everything. Shipment times, descriptions, even the names on the freight truck's papers I'd discreetly snapped photos of. My hands shook as I hit send. Thank you, the officer said quietly. We'll take it from here. For days, I waited. Every time I saw Karen prancing down the street in her oversized sunglasses, waving at people like she owned them, I clenched my jaw. Did she have any idea? Did she know the storm that was coming? Then, one morning, it happened. The sound of heavy boots on asphalt. The roar of black SUVs pulling up to her house. The slam of doors. The crackle of radios. I ran to my window and nearly dropped my coffee. You. Customs agents. Dozens of them. Open up. One barked, pounding on her door. Karen stepped outside in her robe, her hair a mess, sputtering. What is the meaning of this? This is a federal investigation. An agent snapped, flashing his badge. Step aside. Neighbors gathered instantly. Phones out. Whispers cutting through the air like knives. What's going on? Are those federal agents? Is Karen in trouble? I swear, the look on her face, pure panic, mixed with disbelief. She tried to bluster, to wave her hands. I'm the president of this homeowners association. You can't just barge in here. But they could. And they did. Boxes after boxes were hauled out, stacked on the lawn for everyone to see. Counterfeit labels, fake certifications, cheap wiring, all exposed. Gasps erupted. Someone muttered, "She could have burned our houses down with that junk." I caught Karen's eye then. She looked straight at me, and for the first time, I saw fear. Real fear. Did you do this?" She hissed, her voice trembling. I didn't answer. I just sipped my coffee. Let the silence hang heavy. Then the twist came. The one none of us expected. As agents combed through the boxes, one held up a device and cursed under his breath. These aren't just fakes. Some of these are surveillance devices, hidden cameras, GPS trackers. The crowd gasped louder. Surveillance. My stomach dropped again. This wasn't just petty greed. This was something darker. Karen stammered. I didn't know. They told me it was harmless. Just easy money. The lead agent's jaw tightened. Tell that to the federal judge. And just like that, they cuffed her. Right there on her perfect suburban lawn. In front of the neighbors she'd tormented for years. She screamed, wailed, cursed. But no one moved to help her. No one. As they shoved her into the back of the SUV, a hush fell over the street. Then, slowly, people turned their eyes to me. Did you know? One neighbor whispered. I sighed, feeling the weight lift off my shoulders. I knew enough, and I couldn't let her get away with it. The relief that spread across the crowd was almost palpable. Parents hugged their kids tighter. Someone muttered, "Finally, justice." But deep down, a chill lingered. If those devices were meant for surveillance, who sent them? Who else was involved? For now, though, Karen's reign was over. And it ended not with applause, but with handcuffs clicking shut and a black SUV disappearing into the distance. They thought they could steal my land and get away with it. Two smug sisters in designer sunglasses, drunk on HOA power, faked a signature and sold off my property like it was some garage sale leftover. What they didn't expect. I worked in cybercrime investigations for the DOJ. I knew something was off when I got a call from a construction crew asking if I wanted the driveway expanded another 2 feet. Driveway? I hadn't touched that lot in 3 months. I stood in my garage, staring at the wall, my hand frozen midair over a wrench I wasn't even going to use. Boom. My heart dropped like a bag of bricks. I raced to the site in my truck, tires screeching, mind racing faster. My lot me perfectly cleared, fenced, marked suburban lot was crawling with workers. Heavy machinery roared. Someone was laughing over a walkie. And there, in bold red chalk on the sidewalk, was a number. 421 sold. What the hell? Hey! I shouted, jumping out before the engine even stopped. Who authorized this build? This is MY land. A foreman stepped out, clipboard in hand, looking annoyed. The buyers Karen and Meredith Lindell. Closing finalized 2 weeks ago. I blinked. Meredith and Karen Lindell. The same HOA board sisters who constantly find me for excessive shade tree growth, and once tried to ban my dog for too much tail wagging. I felt my throat tighten. They're not the owners. He frowned. Look, I got permits and a scanned deed signed digitally by you. He showed me his tablet. And there it was. My name. My signature. Only I didn't sign it. A shaky breath escaped. My jaw clenched so hard I felt something pop. That's forged. That's fraud. I'm calling the county assessor right now. Back in my truck, I made the call. 10 minutes of hold music. Then finally, sir. Yes, the lot was sold under your name. Wire transfer cleared from the buyer to the Lindell's business account. Closing was processed online via e-sign. But I didn't sell it. I shouted into the speaker. I'm reporting wire fraud. Immediately, they tried to calm me down. But my blood was already boiling. I felt every second of betrayal thrum through my ears. I stared at the horizon of bulldozers chewing through my soil, and I swear I heard my dead father's voice in my head. Never let anyone steal from you and walk. Fine. If they wanted to play dirty, I was about to introduce them to federal fire. What Karen and Meredith didn't know cold have known is that I used to work directly with the cyber division of the FBI on digital signature authentication systems. I helped build the tools that detect tampering and deep forgery in electronic deeds and transfers. You can't out-hack a hacker, sweetheart. That night, I dug deep into the metadata of the deed files. Just as I suspected, the digital signature had inconsistencies. The IP address was a VPN-hosted proxy from Miami. The timestamp? It overlapped with a public HOA meeting where I had photographic proof I was giving a speech. Gotcha. Next, I pulled public records. Their shell company Lindell Property Solutions LLC had only been opened 6 months ago, and their EIN was registered under a post office box. Sloppy. Typical Karen arrogance. By 3 a.m., I had a file the size of a novella. Forgery. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Conspiracy. I didn't even go to the local police. I went straight to an old buddy at the bureau. Alex. Quiet guy. Cold eyes. But fair. Send me everything, he said calmly over the phone. I heard him flipping through something, probably a Chinese takeout menu. We've had other complaints about that HOA money disappearing from community budgets. This might be the spark we need. Light it, I whispered. 3 days passed. The construction crew mysteriously packed up and left without notice. A legal hold was slapped on the build site, but I said nothing. I waited. Then boom. Monday morning. 6:42 a.m. Sirens. I sipped my coffee by the window, watching 4 blacked-out SUVs descend on the Lindell sisters' oversized stucco mansion. They always parked their Lexus SUV slanted across 2 driveways, like royalty. But this time, the street was full of dark suits, radios hissing, and an FBI agent shouting, "Open the door, federal warrant." They opened it. Oh, they opened it. The sight of Karen still in a pastel robe with pink foam curler screaming, "This is unconstitutional," while Meredith tried to hide behind a potted fern was so bizarre, so stupidly perfect, I actually laughed, out loud. A nearby neighbor gasped, holding her chihuahua. "Oh my God! They're being arrested?" I gave her a tight smile. Wire fraud. Selling property they didn't own. Classic suburban crime. Huh. Karen screeched. "This is a mistake. I am the vice president of the HOA. And an agent dryly replied, "Ma'am, you're under federal investigation." Your HOA status is irrelevant. Oh, the irony. By 10 a.m., the news vans were circling like sharks. HOA Karen sisters charged with felony wire fraud and identity theft. One headline actually read, HOA tyrants toppled by victims cybersleuthing. But the twist? That wasn't even the end. See, during the investigation, the FBI uncovered that Karen and Meredith had been embezzling HOA dues into the same shell company, using it as their personal slush fund. Vacations to Turks and Caicos. Cosmetic surgery payments. A business retreat that turned out to be a luxury spa weekend. All funded by us, the homeowners they bullied and fined into silence. When the neighborhood caught wind, all hell broke loose. People who once cowered at their passive-aggressive HOA emails now stood in a furious pack at the next emergency board meeting. Angry dads in polos. Moms with receipts. One elderly war vet straight up yelled, I knew they were snakes when they banned my flag. I stood at the back, silent, arms crossed, watching the board disband itself in shame. And then came the cherry on top. Karen, released on bail, dared to approach me in front of my property one afternoon. Her tone? Still smug, still shrill. You could have handled this privately, you know. We're neighbors. I blinked at her. Neighbors don't sell each other's homes behind their backs. She rolled her eyes. You don't understand how things work. This is just how business is done. I stepped closer. No, this is how prison sentences are done. And before she could open her mouth again, a process server handed her a subpoena. Civil suit. From me. That was the final straw. Her face turned pale, lips trembling. You're not serious. But I was. And the best part? All her accounts were frozen. Tell me what kind of Karen tries to use HOA fines as startup capital and thinks the FBI won't notice. Would you have let it go quietly? She didn't show up to the first hearing. Not surprising. Her lawyer, former lawyer had dropped her after discovering she couldn't pay his retainer. Turns out, when the FBI freezes every account linked to your name and shell company, it's hard to pay your way out of a lawsuit. Or even buy gas. The second hearing? She showed up late, flustered, in wrinkled khakis and a faded cardigan. No Lexus, no heels, just rage simmering under the surface. She barely looked at me as I sat across the courtroom, documents stacked neatly in front of me. Every transaction, every forged file, every HOA abuse printed and highlighted in damning yellow. The judge read aloud the complaint. Fraudulent transfer of property, identity theft, civil damages sought for emotional distress, and punitive restitution. Karen opened her mouth to argue and the judge shut it immediately. Ma'am, you are already under federal indictment. I strongly suggest you remain silent unless advised by counsel. The silence that followed? Absolutely delicious. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. One woman asked me, why go so far with a lawsuit when the FBI's already charging them? I shrugged. Because they didn't just break laws. They broke trust. And they did it in the most smug, entitled way possible. I wasn't just seeking justice for myself. I was making sure no one else had to sit through a 2-hour HOA meeting just to be publicly shamed for leaving their trash bins out for too long. Karen and Meredith's reputations crumbled overnight. They were removed from the HOA board by unanimous vote. Their spa memberships revoked. Their faces, the ones once beaming from neighborhood newsletters, now pixelated on crime news coverage under titles like Neighborhood Nightmares and Suburban Scammers. Even better, my lot was reinstated under my full name with the fraudulent sale completely voided. I walked back onto it, alone, the wind rustling the trees. For a second, I just stood there, feeling the earth under my boots. My land, my rules. And the Lindell sisters? They're facing federal time, plus a civil lawsuit that'll follow them like a bad Yelp review for life. I heard Meredith tried applying for a job at a local real estate office, but word travels fast in a small town. No one wants a fraudster answering phones. So next time someone tells you the HOA just wants what's best for the community, take a good hard look at the fine print. And maybe, just maybe, keep a few lawyer friends on speed dial. Because sometimes karma comes quietly, and other times, It arrives with sirens and a subpoena. Want more real justice and HOA takedowns? Subscribe to my YouTube channel because nothing's more satisfying than a lawsuit well earned. You ever see someone do something so ridiculous, so brazen, that your brain just stalls? Like a bad Wi-Fi connection? That's exactly how I felt watching this HOA Karen slap a neon orange violation sticker on a blacked-out SUV while it was parked at a gas station. Public gas station. I blinked. She's not actually doing that, is she? But oh, she was. This wasn't just a one-off incident either. Our HOA president, Ms. Judith K. Renshaw, self-appointed guardian of all things beige and lifeless, had started expanding her imaginary authority off-property. Yeah, you heard that right. At first, she started small, issuing phony warnings to people parked near the community entrance. Then she escalated. Soon, random cars at the grocery store, the public library, even the local dog park all got tagged with her hideous, fake violation stickers. It was embarrassing. But nothing prepared her for the day she tried it on the wrong vehicle. I was across the street at a donut truck, waiting for my glazed twist and watching her from a safe distance. The gas station was busy, cars in and out, horns, the occasional whoosh of tires on hot pavement. Typical summer chaos. And there she was, short bob, sun visor, clipboard from hell. She stalked the rows like a parking enforcer from a post-apocalyptic HOA. Her mouth was set in a grim line like she was doing God's work. Then came the SUV. Big, black, clean. No plates in the front, just a small police decal on the windshield. Unmarked, but not unrecognizable. She squinted, hesitated, then scribbled on her fake carbon copy ticket pad, God knows where she got those, and slapped the sticker right on the tinted driver's side window. I dropped my donut. My heart actually did a weird lurch. I wanted to shout across the street, "Don't do it, Judith!" But it was too late, because not 2 minutes later, the driver stepped out. And oh boy, 6'2", built like a linebacker, shades on, badge clearly clipped to his belt now that he wasn't in the vehicle. The off-duty state trooper lane, as I would come to know later, looked down at the sticker, then up at Judith like she'd just personally keyed his mother's name into his paint job. "What the hell is this?" he asked. Calm. Deadly calm. Judith didn't flinch. "This is a private property violation. You're not permitted to park here without an HOA-approved decal." He blinked once. Slowly. "Ma'am, this is a chevron. On a state-maintained road." She sniffed. "Our jurisdiction extends to visual consistency in adjacent commercial spaces. It's in the amended guidelines." My jaw dropped. Was she quoting fake bylaws now? She was. She really was. Trooper Lane's lip twitched, not with amusement. "You forged a violation and placed it on a government-owned vehicle. You got ID on you." That's when she should have backed off. Apologized. Played the confused elderly neighbor. But no. Not HOA Karen. She scoffed. "I'm not required to show anything. You're off duty. You can't arrest me." Now that was a mistake. Because even off duty, a state trooper is still a state trooper, and obstruction, forgery, and impersonating a municipal authority. Yeah, those don't go over well. He slowly reached into his back pocket, pulled out his phone, and started recording. Calm voice, steady hand. "Ma'am, for the record, you are placing unauthorized citations on private vehicles, including my department-issued SUV. This is being documented." Judith flinched at the word documented. Her visor trembled. "I'm simply enforcing community standards. On state property?" He cut in. She started to argue again, but this time, a voice interrupted from behind me. "Is that the sticker lady?" Someone muttered. Turns out, I wasn't the only one watching. A crowd had begun to gather. At least 5 people stepped closer, phones raised. "She tagged my car last week outside the daycare," someone said. "Mine too. At Walgreens," another added. The trooper looked around, suddenly realizing this wasn't a fluke. This was a pattern. "All right," he said, walking toward her slowly. "We're gonna have a little talk down at the precinct." "What?" she barked. This is harassment. I'll have you sued for slander." He pulled out his radio. "Dispatch, this is Lane. Need a unit at Ridgeview Chevron. Possible 148. A. Forgery and impersonation of public authority. Judith backed up like he'd pulled a flamethrower. I'm calling my lawyer. This is fraudulent. You're the one committing abuse of power. Now that word fraudulent, it bounced around the air like irony echoing off brick walls. Because just 3 months earlier, she'd been caught forging a resident vote to extend her HOA term another year. She literally scribbled over signatures on a ballot sheet with glitter pen. I'm not even joking. People knew. But she buried it under paperwork and threats. That day at the gas station, she couldn't bury this. The cruiser pulled in fast. Lights off, but the energy was tense. An officer stepped out, nodded at Trooper Lane, then turned to Judith. Ma'am, we've received multiple complaints about unauthorized citations being issued in non-HOA areas. We'd like you to come with us for questioning. Questioning? You're not serious. This is just a misunderstanding. The officer calmly pulled out zip ties. Not cuffs, zip ties. The kind they use when someone's not considered a high-level threat but still enough of a problem that they shouldn't run. And she screamed, I am the president of Ridgeview Heights. She howled as the officer gently guided her to the back seat. This is a civil rights violation. I know the mayor. From behind the glass, you could still hear her ranting as the door closed. The trooper turned to us, removed his sunglasses, and said with a smirk, Well, that was fun. We clapped. I'm not even ashamed. It was spontaneous. Beautiful. The karma we all dreamed of. But oh, it didn't stop there. 2 days later, she was officially suspended by the HOA board, a temporary move, while the incident was investigated. But a week after that, someone leaked the body cam footage online. It went viral, not just for the arrest but because Trooper Lane, a total deadpan hero, narrated the entire clip like a documentary. This particular HOA predator, he said, as the video showed her slapping stickers on windshields, appears to have confused municipal property with her personal kingdom. The line became a meme. I bought the t-shirt, and then came the lawsuit. Several residents, me included, teamed up to file a class-action civil suit for harassment, unauthorized data collection. She kept logs of where we parked, and impersonating a city official. And remember the fake ballot vote? Yeah, we brought that up too. With receipts. Her defense? I was only trying to beautify the community. Beautify? With forged fines and public meltdowns? The judge didn't buy a word of it. When the civil suit finally made it to court, the evidence was stacked like a Jenga tower made of legal bricks. Surveillance videos, photos of fake citations, witness testimony, and Trooper Lane's now famous footage were all entered into the record. Judith tried to argue she had verbal approval from a former city councilman who turned out to have died 3 years ago. I wish I were kidding. By week 2 of the trial, even her lawyer looked like he was rethinking his career choices. The ruling? Brutal. The judge declared her actions as deliberate, malicious, and bordering on public fraud. She was found liable for civil harassment, forgery, and impersonation of authority. The HOA was ordered to pay damages to over 20 residents, and Judith personally faced a $60,000 judgment. She cried in court, the ugly kind of crying, like she couldn't believe her little stickers had led to this. But karma wasn't done, because the judge also ordered a forensic audit of Ridgeview Heights HOA, and what they found made jaws drop. Turns out, Judith had been funneling HOA funds to pay for administrative costs, like catered luncheons, spa receipts, and even a rental car she used to stalk residents. That kicked off a second lawsuit, this time for embezzlement. Her assets were frozen within 72 hours. Her home? Under lien. Her reputation? Ashes. Within a month, she disappeared from the neighborhood entirely. One day there was a for sale sign on her lawn. The next it was empty. No goodbye note. No remorse. Just gone. The same woman who once threatened to fine me for leaving my garbage bin out 20 minutes too long, now the centerpiece of a multi-lawsuit HOA meltdown. You know what the best part was? The new HOA board voted to remove all fake citations from community records and issued a formal apology signed, notarized, and framed in the community hall. They also put in new bylaws requiring any enforcement action to be reviewed by actual legal counsel. As for Trooper Lane, he got a commendation and a year's worth of free gas from the station where it all started. The owner said it was the least he could do. Me? I got my donut that day cold, but it still tasted like justice. Funny how a $3 sticker turned into a full-blown lawsuit and a career-ending lesson in what happens when a Karen flies too close to the law. Want more true HOA drama with wild comebacks, legal twists, and satisfying takedowns? Subscribe to the channel because this lawsuit was just the beginning. I could feel my blood pressure spike the second I saw it, water gushing like a silver serpent out of the fire hydrant in front of Karen's house, pooling down the street, glistening under the summer sun. What in the hell? I muttered, stepping off my porch. It wasn't just one hydrant. No, 2 blocks down. Another one was spewing like a busted geyser. And there she was, Karen, the self-appointed queen of our HOA, standing in her yard in her ridiculous wide-brim hat, hands on her hips, watching the water gush like she owned the city's plumbing system. You do realize that's a fire hydrant, right? I called out, walking closer. My voice was sharp enough to cut through the roar of water. She barely turned her head. I ordered them opened. The landscaping crew needed more water pressure for the new flower beds. The HOA budget covers it. I blinked. You ordered them opened? Karen, that's city property. That's an emergency water line. She smirked, brushing a strand of her perfectly bleached hair behind her ear. Relax. My cousin works at Public Works. It's fine. Except it wasn't fine. I knew the rules. Tampering with hydrants wasn't just some HOA slap on the wrist issue, it was a felony. And the fire chief in our county? Oh, he did not play around with people messing with his equipment. By the time I got back inside, my phone was buzzing, our neighbor group chat was blowing up. Anyone else see the hydrants? My water pressure's gone. I just tried to fill my kids' kiddie pool and got brown sludge coming out of the hose. I told them what I saw, and instantly the chat turned into a frenzy. Some people were terrified about what would happen if there was a fire today. Others, they were already sharpening their pitchforks for the next HOA meeting. That night, I heard the deep rumble of an engine outside. Peeking through the blinds, I saw the fire chief himself, tall, broad-shouldered, with that permanent squint of a man who'd been in the job for decades. He was standing at the hydrant, running his gloved hands over the metal, frowning at the wrench marks. The next day, it exploded, not the hydrant, the news. Karen was screaming at the top of her lungs in the HOA office, the door wide open so everyone could hear. This is fraud. You're framing me. Those hydrants were already open when The fire chief cut her off. His voice was deep, calm, and terrifying. We've got you on camera, ma'am. City CCTV. You turned them. You drained them. That's tampering with emergency systems. She froze for half a second. Then, that smugness flickered back. Oh, please. That's my street. Those are my hydrants. That's when I almost laughed. She was so wrapped up in her self-importance, she'd forgotten the city owned every inch of those hydrants. And the chief wasn't about to let her walk away. By Thursday, she was officially booked. Tampering with emergency equipment, potential public safety hazard, reckless endangerment. She even had to pose for a mugshot. And yet, she strutted out of the station like she was walking a red carpet. But here's the thing about Karen, she doesn't stop. Even when logic and the law are screaming at her to quit, she doubles down. Within a week, she filed a lawsuit against the fire department. Her claim? That they had unlawfully interfered with HOA water rights and forged maintenance records to make her look guilty. When I read the copy of her complaint, I almost choked on my coffee. She was literally accusing the fire chief of falsifying city logs, and she even claimed the hydrants were decorative and not operational in the traditional sense. Oh, she was in for it. See, she didn't know about the side investigation already brewing. A few folks on the HOA board, people who'd been fed up with her nonsense for years, started digging into her budget allocations. And what they found? Pure gold. Receipts that didn't match up. Landscaping invoices that had been paid to a company that didn't exist. Donations to a charity that turned out to be a P.O. box registered under her name. Fraud, plain and simple. When the city attorney got wind of it, they added it to the pile. Suddenly, her little "I'll sue you first" stunt backfired. Not only was she fighting the fire department, now she was staring down potential charges for embezzlement. The next HOA meeting was packed, standing room only. People were leaning against the back wall, whispering. The air felt thick, electric. And when Karen walked in, head high, folder under her arm, it was like the room collectively held its breath. She started strong. "I'll give her that. I've been wrongfully accused. This is a personal vendetta. I demand the HOA stand by me in this legal battle." "Karen?" One of the board members interrupted, sliding a stack of papers across the table. "Can you explain these?" She glanced down. For a moment, her face was perfectly still. Then the color drained from her cheeks. I don't have to answer that right now," she stammered. The murmurs in the room turned into full-blown chatter. Someone in the back laughed under their breath. The board member leaned forward. "These are payment records for a landscaping company that doesn't exist. They match the amounts you approved last quarter. That's fraud. And combined with your hydrant stunt," he let the sentence hang in the air. Karen slammed the papers shut. This meeting is over. But it wasn't. Not for her. 2 weeks later, the county issued another set of charges, this time for financial misconduct. And the fire chief? He showed up to the courthouse with the hydrant valve in a sealed evidence bag, like the cherry on top of her downfall sundae. I watched from the back row as her attorney whispered frantically to her. She shook her head, whispering back so hard her earrings swung. When the judge denied her motion to dismiss, her face twisted, not in rage, but something sharper. Panic. And I'll be honest, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The trial wasn't quick. Karen made sure of that. Every hearing, she showed up in tailored suits with a stack of documents, as if sheer paper volume could intimidate a judge. But the evidence was like a slow leak in a dam. Every time she tried to patch one hole, 2 more opened. Midway through, her so-called cousin at Public Works testified. Under oath, he admitted he had nothing to do with her hydrant stunt. "She called me after the fact," he said, voice low, "asking me to say it was an authorized flush. I refused." The jury's faces told me everything. They weren't buying her story. Not a single word. Then came the kicker. The city's forensic accountant laid out her financial trail like a crime drama finale. Every fake landscaping invoice, every shady charitable donation, even a bank account in a neighboring state that linked directly back to her signature. Karen's jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth might crack. She tried to object, to call it a witch hunt, but her attorney kept tugging at her sleeve, whispering for her to stop digging deeper. By the final week, her once loyal HOA allies had all but vanished. The same people who'd once clapped for her speeches now avoided eye contact in the hall. And then sentencing day. She stood there, defiant but visibly shaking, as the judge read the list of charges. Tampering with emergency systems, reckless endangerment, fraud, and filing a frivolous lawsuit against a public agency. When the gavel dropped, the courtroom was so quiet you could hear the soft whir of the ceiling fan. The verdict: 6 months in county jail, restitution payments to the city, and a permanent ban from holding any HOA office in the state. Oh, and her lawsuit against the fire department? Dismissed with prejudice. I stepped outside into the sharp autumn air, feeling the weight of months finally lifting. For once, justice hadn't just knocked, it had kicked the door in. As Karen was led away in handcuffs, she glanced at me. Not with rage, not with smugness. Just a hollow, distant glare, like someone who'd finally realized the game was over. And maybe that was the sweetest part of all. If you want more HOA justice stories and wild neighborhood drama, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Trust me, the next lawsuit tale is even crazier.